Welcome, my friends, to the Far Post podcast presented by ESports Gaming League. I don't want to alarm people, but 2 shows in the span of a week. We're cooking with gas now on the Far Post podcast.
Handle.
It is.
A lot to handle.
It is. Hopefully people can handle it.
You know what else is a lot to handle? The photo on your employee badge is mesmerizing.
I was actually someone who has actually been on the podcast in the past, our former intern Brian Smith from literally a decade ago, who's now like the associate commissioner of hockey.
Love
East,
the good
which is
baguette.
ridiculous.
Love the
baguette.
Love the baguette.
He came out to the Decision Day game when we raised the supporter shield.
Yeah, that's nice to hear.
And I met his fiance, and I could feel the entire time that I was chatting with them, she kept glancing down at my badge to be like, why does this guy wearing the badge of some random 21-year-old?
It's amazing. It just caught my eye, and now I can't stop looking at it.
Yeah, that's what happened.
You.
That's what happened during this conversation.
You
I
were
could feel her
young and full of life.
I could feel her looking at my badge photo, which was literally taken 14 years ago.
That's
with
amazing.
No hair, no beard.
I probably should update it.
Before the energy of working for the Revs for 14 years had been drained out of me.
Yes, so much enthusiasm. Wow.
I mean, you could find a 21-year-old that looks exactly like that, and he could impersonate you. He could steal your badge.
It's true.
And there's nothing you could do if he looked like you at that age.
There are a lot of people on the planet who would look a lot more like me in this photo than I do right now, because it's not real close.
You know, you see like how the presidency ages people, right?
Yeah.
You know, like wow.
It's like Empire Records. Like, you did have hair when you went in there, right?
Lord.
Yeah, I did. Yep. All right, well, we got a lot of energy today because it's the first playoff installment of the Far Post podcast this year. We might have time even to do 1 or 2 more of these shows before the Revs host.
We might squeeze a couple in.
Eastern Conference semifinal on Tuesday, November 30th. We've got a date confirmed. It'll be Tuesday, November 30th, 7:30 p.m. at Gillette Stadium. That game's going to be against either New York City FC or Atlanta United FC. If you do not have tickets yet, get them now. You're going to want to be here. It's going to be the first home playoff game at Gillette Stadium with fans in the stands for 7 years.
So hyped.
So it is a day you are going to want to be here. Do not miss your chance. I'll be here. I'm Jeff Lemieux.
Boo.
That's fine.
What, we're cheering for him now? What happened?
The show, it went off the rails. I think everybody felt bad for me after we went through the whole Jeff lost his hair because he worked for the Revs kind of thing. Maybe it's just kind of a pity cheer, which is fine.
Right,
I needed it.
We couldn't get people to boo on Zoom like over the last And it just
I've been booing you in my heart.
Just evolve.
For a whole year.
I've been feeling it.
Yep.
Yeah,
we'll get him back next year though.
Yep.
You're here with Conlon.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Friday.
Elizabeth Pehota.
Good morning, everybody.
And Jason Dalrymple.
Hello.
We are going to be joined shortly by this week's guest, Mr. Teal Bunbury. We'll have a nice little conversation with Teal ahead of the playoffs. We'll talk about
a nice
him
man.
Winning the Humanitarian of the Year award as evidenced by his niceness.
Yes.
But before we roll into some of the soccer stuff, I did want to follow up. Our last show was talking about the rebrand, but the day that we recorded the show was the day before the actual launch. So just wanted to follow up real quick, ask how the launch went from your perspective.
Really, really well. We're very happy. Execution-wise, went really well. I mean, everyone, not least of all the people in this room, did a great job getting the story out and getting our message out. And it was really well received. The people we knew weren't going to like it, didn't like it. But for the most part, it was really well received. And outside of New England Revolution fans too, really, really well received as well. So it went about as well as we could have hoped for. So we're very happy.
And I know the gear was very popular on Sunday when the Revs had their Decision Day game. I think basically everything sold out on Sunday, right? Because like I said, Brian's fiance said she got the last scarf. So literally they had to pull a scarf off the display to get them a scarf.
Yeah.
Now, do we have a timeline on when stuff will be restocked? Should stuff be in that pro shop when people come out to that playoff game?
Oh yes, for sure,
Okay.
for sure. Yes.
Just want to make sure.
Yes, definitely by the playoff game. Yeah, I mean soon. It's literally rolling in every day. So
Gotcha.
We'll be fully loaded again for the playoffs, and then obviously the online store is locked and loaded.
I did just want to clarify as well and confirm for people. I know there were some people who saw when there was a rebrand, a lot of people assumed that next year, because there's a new logo, there would be 2 new kits.
Yeah.
I did want to confirm for people, there will be a new primary next year.
Correct.
But the Fort kit, the secondary kit, will remain the same just with the new logo.
Correct, yeah. And that's just standard Adidas MLS jersey cycle. It's really only new teams that get to do the 2 jersey thing. And if you remember the Chicago Fire, they ended up wearing sort of almost a youth soccer kit for a year because they changed logos a couple of times. But
Yeah.
so unfortunately, we'd have loved to roll out 2 new kits, but it's not to be. So we'll have a new primary, and we'll update the secondary kit.
I had said this to you the other day in the office too. I so very much appreciate your commitment to correctly pronouncing Adidas, which I feel like people listening are like, why is he doing this like European pronunciation of Adidas? I'm like, well, that's actually the way it's supposed to be pronounced.
Yes.
We just pronounce it Adidas because we have forever.
Yes.
I think we got to give a shout to Gary Stevenson on that one, because he's really the first person I've heard just kind of like hammer that home, with the league.
Yeah, it's sort of I did fall into the Adidas trap for a couple of years, and it just never sat right with me. And then, I was like, why am I doing this? Because I always grew up with it. It was Adidas when I grew up. It's always been Adidas. So
I don't think I've ever heard it called that before.
Yeah, because
outside of in the rest of the world, it's Adidas. But for some reason,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
here
we
it's
grew up with
Adidas.
I grew up with a Run DMC song called My Adidas.
Yeah.
So I mean,
So it's their fault.
it's Run
Yeah.
DMC totally.
Yeah.
because
It's
the
a good
guy
song.
who started the company's name was Adi Dassler, right? Was that his name,
Correct.
Adi Dassler?
Correct.
So Adidas. It makes sense.
Yes.
But us dumb Americans were just like
Adidas.
Adidas.
Yeah, well, you do that with a lot of words, right? You've done it with a lot of words. Aluminum.
All right, yeah, we could go down a
Aluminum?
rabbit hole on that one, but we
Not a
won't.
word.
All right, there was reason to celebrate the rebrand launch last Thursday, and then there was more reason to celebrate over the weekend, right? Sunday as well. The Revs lifted the supporter shield for the first time. We talked on the last show about what that moment was going to be like for us. Now that we experienced it, I know things maybe didn't play out exactly the way we wanted to them on Sunday in terms of the game on the field, but Cathal, I'll start with you just because you've been here for a long, long time. What was that moment like for you, seeing the Revs lift that shield on Sunday?
Surreal, a little surreal. I think when I first joined the club, we had wagon teams, but they were always teams that sort of got through the regular season and then got to postseason and rolled people. They were good teams, but you always sort of looked at the supporter shield as, that's good for those guys. It was never. I don't know, it was never something I envisioned coming for this club. And then the way this season has played out, and to know that you're so far ahead, then you win it, and there's sort of a couple of weeks of, we didn't really get it, and we don't have it yet, we didn't celebrate it yet, but then, the second those confetti cannons start firing, that's pretty special. It's pretty cool. It's been a long time coming for this club. It was really, really, really special.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, when the confetti started going, it all of a sudden felt really real that it was happening. We had talked about it for so long since the Revs, they went down to Orlando a couple weeks prior. I think it was really weird that, you had to wait so long for that moment because you knew it was happening, like you said, Cathal, but it obviously hadn't quite happened yet. So the magnitude of it really sunk in for me when we were on the field. And I think also just like kind of the ups and downs that we've seen at this club over the years, it just made it really special. And especially since Bruce came in, and I know that I haven't been here as long as any of you have. I've been here for 4 full seasons, heading into number 5 next year, which is also crazy. But just seeing when Bruce first came in and how the team was just at a completely different point and how quickly that turned around, because I don't know, from June, end of May 2019 to now November 2021, that's not that long of a period of time. That's a year and a half. So to drastically go from having a really tough spot and a really big leadership change to then being the best team in the regular season and in MLS history in that point, it's just such a turnaround. So proud of this group. I'm so pleased to have been a part of that moment in celebration.
Yeah, I mean, when Bruce Arena arrived in May of 2019 and said this is going to be a project to get things turned around, I don't think the vision was it's going to be a 2.5-year project. I thought it was going to be a little bit longer than that.
No, and even we talked about this earlier this year. Even coming off last year, you thought, okay, the Revs should be a playoff team and should be round and should be knocking on the door. You didn't see
not
this.
best team of all time, no. Jada, you've seen some trophy lifts, obviously, but anything that compared to a supporter shield trophy lift?
No, this was obviously a unique circumstance given the result of the game, but I was glad that everybody was able to just kind of swallow that for a second and be like, okay, we accomplished a lot this season, and they let it all out, and it was just really cool. And from my perspective, kind of being trapped next to the field board between the players throwing up the shield and 40 photographers, that was fun.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I was nervous when the final whistle blew because was not a great vibe down on the sidelines, on the field. You know that this trophy lift is coming. You're going to have this really emotional moment to celebrate the season. And then to lose the game which was snapped a 10-game unbeaten run. Only the 5th game the Revs lost all season. Only the 2nd game they lost at home. They get shut out. Their guys clearly at the final whistle were not feeling it. And I thought, are they even going to enjoy this moment? Are they even going to want to do this right now? But thankfully, once they got over there and they actually got their hands on the shield and the confetti went off and the pyro went off, they were able to, like you said, kind of let that fall away and say, okay, yes, we are disappointed with the results on the field, but we have to put that behind us to celebrate these accomplishments because they deserve to be accomplished. But it felt there was like a 2-minute span between the final whistle when they lifted the shield and you're like, are they going to enjoy this?
There was some stresses on the pitch level for sure. But I think once you line up behind that field board and you see the trophy on its way, and then it's,
I think that's when it changed, when they actually saw it, being presented, like, okay, let's do this.
I think it was when the confetti fell. I still kind of felt the tension as we were walking over there. Like, you just kind of felt the emotions, but it's just so unusual to have that juxtaposition of that result with a trophy raising.
Well, and I'll say too, I think what that shield celebration did for me was really kind of bring into focus how badly I want to have that MLS Cup celebration. Because compared to an MLS Cup celebration, that Shield celebration was really subdued. Because you got the 2-week break between clinching it and lifting it, because you lost the game on the day, because you know that the cup is still out there. Like, there were all these reasons why it was still a little bit of a subdued celebration. But as that confetti was falling, I was like, man, I want to do this with an MLS Cup.
Yeah, for sure. And that's obviously that's the ultimate goal, right? And not to rehash the supporter shields, the more important trophy nonsense that we've heard. That's the goal, and that's the it should never be the same level of celebration as MLS Cup, because that's why the players play. That's why we're in business, is to win championships, and to win the ultimate championship is MLS Cup. And yeah, it'll be nice. That's when you get the rollout, the big stage, and you get all that, shenanigans that go along with it. Yeah, so it's December 11th would be pretty spectacular. So,
and the unique thing about the shield is that you can strap a GoPro to the inside of it.
Yeah.
Shout out to Curtis over there behind the glass.
To the back of it.
If we had glass.
The inside of it would be tricky. To the back of it, Jimmy.
To the back. Oh, did I say? Oh, I said the back. Yeah, sorry.
Inside would be pretty special if you could pull that off. I'm not sure you see a lot, but it'd be pretty special if you can execute that.
The other side of it. It's early. I haven't had enough coffee yet.
Turns out the shield is made of double-sided glass.
It's freaking thing weighs a ton.
It was way heavier than I
heavy.
expected it to be. And the footage from the GoPro on back of the shield, if you haven't seen it, check it out, because it was spectacular. And my only concern, I think, Curtis brought it up on, Thursday or Friday before the Sunday shield lift and said, what if we strapped a GoPro to the back of the shield? And my immediate response was, it needs to be taped on there so tight, because if the first time anyone on this club is lifting the shield, they lift up the shield and then a GoPro falls off and hits them in the face. So you got to tape that thing like you've never taped anything before. And he did, and it worked. And the
you don't want Carlos Heel out with
No.
6 stitches over his eye from a GoPro.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
No player would
GoPros
ever
are a lot lighter and softer than they were back in the day.
Aren't we all?
Yeah,
true.
I mean, maybe not lighter.
A little heavier and softer.
Yeah, maybe not lighter. No. Maybe not softer either, actually. Ladies and gentlemen, jury, please disregard the previous statement.
No, a GoPro would never hit a Revolution player in the face and
that would
4 stitches. That would literally never happen.
Would never happen. No.
That has happened before. That happened to Brad Knight in that training one time.
Technically,
that's
a soccer ball that hit him.
Story for, the soccer ball hit him and pushed the GoPro into his face. Yes, correct.
Didn't we have a staff member get injured by a bobblehead too?
We did. Yeah. We got a lot of stories for another day.
It's an off-season story.
Yeah. Well, there was reason to celebrate on Sunday. Then there was more reason to celebrate on Tuesday morning as the Revs announced the re-signing of Gustavo Bo. Bo had an option on his
Gustavo Bobo?
Gustavo Bo.
Oh, there was a pause there. Gustavo Bo.
Bo had an option, had a contract option for next season, but rather than the club simply exercising that option, they worked out a deal to keep him with the club through 2023. He has been, since arriving in July of 2019, one of the most productive attacking players in all of Major League Soccer. Elizabeth, obviously we had a lot of coverage of this on Tuesday. Your thoughts on making sure that Gustavo Bo gets locked up and stays in New England for years to come?
I think that's a really smart decision. He's, an incredible player, second in goal scoring this year for the Revs, 29 goals in his 62 regular season appearances. He's just been phenomenal from this club, and we knew from day one in that Vancouver game when he made his debut and scored that rocket, we knew that he was a special player, and he's just consistently shown it over the years. And we actually had a press conference, I believe it was on Tuesday. I get the days of the week all mixed up at this point in the season. And I actually asked him, I was like, what was that conversation like about your re-signing with Bruce Arena? And he said via translator that, it was really short actually, because it was something that what both parties wanted. The club wanted him here, Bruce wanted him here, and he actually wanted to stay here because he's made New England such a home and he loves this club. So I think when you have players that are totally bought into the club, the location, and the mentality of this team, I think it goes a long way. And to have a talented player like Gustavo hitting all of those benchmarks, I think it's going to be a really special couple years to come.
Yeah, not only the 15 goals this year, but 9 assists for Gustavo Bo. Mm-hmm. And while Carles Gil led Major League Soccer with 18 assists, it was Gustavo Bo who led Major League Soccer in expected assists. In terms of actual playmaking, generating big chances like that for teammates, it was Gustavo Bo who led Major League Soccer, which was a very surprising stat for me because we've been told over and over again, Gustavo's a goal scorer. That's what he does. And clearly he has that ability. But that playmaking ability really upped itself this year too.
Yeah, no doubt. He became I don't want to say he became a more rounded player because he obviously is a really good player. Yeah. But they learn how to play with each other. Those three in particular, right? And four when you add in Tejan too, but they learn how to play together. And that's, you start to know where players are going to be. Obviously, when you have a threat like Adam Books in the box too, you start to learn how to play with people, and it's great. It's not only great for our club, it's great for this league too, to now be able to take players from Liga MX and they can come in here and play well and want to commit to this league and want to stay here, and that's a huge step for this. We all know MLS' sort of fixation with Liga MX and competing with them and overtaking them at some point, and steps like this are huge in that development. If you start to become a real destination for the best players coming to this area now, that you can compete.
Yeah, for me, when you think about Carles Gil and Gustavo Bo, both of these guys arrived in New England in 2019, and both of them took a little bit of a leap to come to this league and this team and this area of the country. Carles Gil had only ever played in England, so he had a little bit of English background, but he had only ever played in Europe. Yeah, Gustavo Bo had only ever played in South America and Mexico. Coming to MLS was always going to be different, and coming to live in New England was going to be really different.
Especially at the time they joined the club too. They didn't join a juggernaut.
Yeah. No.
They didn't join. They put a lot of faith in the project, and even, I think when you're Gustavo and you had a Bruce Arena there, when you're Carles Gil, it was a first time coach too, and like that was a massive leap to take at that time.
Yeah, and the fact that both of those guys within 2 years of signing, both decided this is the place for me. I'm going to re-up. I'm going to extend my time here. I mean, that to me says so much about, you mentioned the growth of the league, but also the way the culture has shifted in this organization, that you're now looking at players like Carles Gil and Gustavo Bo, and these are guys who are saying, I don't even want to let my contract run out. I want to make sure that I'm staying here moving forward.
And they're now the first line of your recruitment going forward. Yeah. It's those guys, right? It's not so much a leap of faith anymore. It's, well, talk to those two and ask them what they think about the team and the club and the region and the facility.
Well, Carles Gil was heavily involved in the Revolution's year-end awards on Sunday, as you would anticipate he would have been.
Yeah.
The rest of them announced on Sunday as well. Carles was named Team MVP, which was a fan vote, Players Player of the Year, which was obviously a player vote, Midnight Riders Man of the Year, voted on by the Midnight Riders. So Carles earning a ton of praise. We hope that there are going to be more league-end awards for Carles coming in the coming weeks and months. We had Teal Bunbury, as we mentioned. He will be on the show shortly. He was named Humanitarian of the Year for the second straight year. Now, one that's interesting to me, a media vote selected Andrew Farrell as Defender of the Year. I'm wondering if there would have been any other options you would have considered for Defender of the Year if Andrew Farrell would have been your number one pick.
I've wrestled with not wrestled, too strong a term. I've gone back and forth on this one. Something has changed with Andrew in this last couple of months as a leader on this team, and he's always his tenure will always put him in that sort of leadership position. But something's flipped with him this year, and he's taken on a whole sort of different persona and a whole different level of leadership for this club. And I think that's reflected in the voting in this award. I think you could look all across the back line and make an argument for people. And Dewan's been exceptional left back for someone who 18 months ago was a right attacking midfielder. He's been exceptional. But I think something's happened with Andrew, and that he's just taken on this different persona for the whole club. And I think when you start to think about who should be the defender of the year, it's hard to discount that piece. And that, I look back at that, the recap video, Curtis, you threw together from the season, and that second frame when you go down in Chicago, and he puts a calm down, relaxed signal. I think something flipped for him this year, and he realized that, I've been around this league a long time, and I know this club, I know this league, and I know what needs to be done, and let's go do it. And I'm going to put that on my back and go.
I mean, you think about the rest of that back line. He's got Henry Kessler, a second-year center back alongside him. And then his outside backs are DeJuan Jones and Brandon Bai, two players who are not only younger players, but are very new to those outside back positions. I mean, he very much, every single minute of every game has to be that leader on the back line, and he's been that guy. And kind of remarkable that in this season, the year in which he surpassed all of the longevity records in terms of appearances, minutes, starts, all of that, he actually set career highs in all of those statistics this year. 33 starts, played every minute of every game except for the playoff clinching game in Chicago because it was midweek. They made 9 changes, and that's the one game this year he was given a rest. He was on the field for every minute for the rest of the season, and I 100% understand why Andrew Farrell was named Defender of the Year. If I'd had a vote, I would have voted for DeJuan Jones, just because I think DeJuan, the leaps that he has taken at that left back position. And I know in terms of, I don't know how you say it, foot mob, I guess, foot mob. I don't know. They do match ratings for every single match throughout the course of the year. And they had DeJuan Jones rated as the best left back in Major League Soccer this year based on game ratings. And I don't think that's a massive stretch. Like, DeJuan has become a game-changing left back for this team.
No doubt.
So that's where my vote would have gone. But again, I completely understand the fact that there was an argument. I feel like for years there's been one clear-cut guy on the back line. The fact that there were multiple guys on that back line this year, you said, that guy could have definitely been the Defender of the Year.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if you had any thoughts on that, Elizabeth.
I mean, I think you have a lot of great choices, but I would have voted with Andrew Farrell as well. I think just the fact that you said it, Jeff, the fact that he played all 33 games, just except for that one game in Chicago. I think it just speaks volumes to his ability, his leadership, and Bruce Arena did make several. I think there were 4 games total where he made 9 changes, and I know some of those were going back to lineups.
Yeah, going back to the regular lineup.
But either way, when he did heavy rotation, he always relied on Andrew Farrell, and I think that speaks volumes to his leadership, his talent, and his skill, especially as a tenured veteran for this club, to keep improving and keep being that anchor on the back line. Not to mention, he's also been a complete mentor to mold some of those younger players on the back line. He's consistently played, with DeJuan Jones and Brandon Bai over their tenure here. He also was instrumental in Henry Kessler's development as he was a rookie last season and now in his second season with the team. So I think that he's been phenomenal for this group. He also had several game-changing saves, you could call them, clearances off of the back line this year that kept the Revs in games because they had so many one-goal wins. So I think his game-changing ability and his skill has really earned him that award. And it's great to be able to have a conversation about different players like DeJuan Jones and Brandon Bai and Henry Kessler, who have all been stellar performances on the back line too.
And just to wrap up the Revolution's year-end awards, the UHC Academy Player of the Year, Noel Buck. He's 16 years old. He signed with Revolution 2 in June, but he'd already been playing consistently with the team while an academy player. He was one of only 2 players who have featured in all 28 matches for Revolution 2 this season, along with Ryan Spalding, left back, who was named to the USL League One all-first team this past week. He was the second leading scorer on the team, Noel Buck, at 16 years old. He's a 5'11" central midfielder, and that is a name you should know if you are a fan of the New England Revolution first team. Noel Buck is a player you're keeping an eye on.
Yeah, watch out for him. To go back to defender, there should have been extra credit, or at least a special mention for Henry Kessler and throwing the ball away. It was the greatest piece of defending that this club saw all year. Maybe ever. Phenomenal.
That will go down in the history books as one of the more legendary plays.
Incredible.
I just think it's also funny too, because it's Henry Kessler who is, when you speak with him, a little bit more of this he's it seems like a kid. He's really positive, articulate, and then all of a sudden you just watch
He's skilled
this
in he is skilled in the dark arts.
Oh, he's one of those guys.
So that's a good way to put
it. He's niggly. He is
That's a good
niggly.
way
When
to
he's
put
on
it.
the field, I would not want. If I was a forward, I don't think I'd want to play against Henry Kessler.
He's niggly. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always little chip in here and there. Yeah, he's niggly.
I'd imagine that he's in guys' ears pretty much the
I'm
entire
sure.
game.
Giving it the old,
yeah.
sorry, I stood in your toe move. Yeah.
It's different than being in someone's ear though versus like doing
Oh,
that
for
move to
sure.
throw the ball.
Awesome.
Like that was a level I just didn't know he had in him, which I respect.
awesome.
When you think of his personality off the field,
Yeah.
the personality that he has on the field is just he's one of those guys, and I
Yep.
think a lot of professional athletes do.
Teal's like that,
he
too.
flips a switch when he gets on the field. He's a different guy.
Yep.
Speaking of Teal, let's talk to Teal, the Humanitarian of the Year winner for the New England Revolution. We'll be joined next by Revolution forward and back-to-back Humanitarian of the Year winner, Teal Bunbury.
Welcome back to the Far Post podcast presented by ESports Gaming League. We are back and pleased to be joined by forward Teal Bunbury here. Teal, thank you for joining us in the studio for the show today.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm happy to be here. It's exciting.
You've got a silky voice in the microphone, so
I'm trying. I've been working on it, before we started here. I've been working on it.
I love that. Well, Teal, we know that you've been with this team a long time. You're a 12-year MLS veteran, 8 years with the Revolution, and you had a really special moment this past weekend lifting the Supporters Shield. So how excited were you to finally hoist that and have it be the first ever league trophy for this club?
It was a special moment. I mean, I'm still kind of thinking about it currently. It's difficult to kind of put into words, and I know a lot of people probably say that about many accomplishments that they might have in their careers, but it's a moment that's special to not only myself, but I think the rest of the group that maybe have been here a while. Of course, the fans. But for me personally, it just I've been here for 8 years, and there's been a lot of highs, a lot of lows. So to have a season like we've had this year with the type of players that we have and the group that we have, the staff that we have, it just all made it a special moment, where everybody can recognize, we did a very difficult thing to be the best team in the regular season in this league, set a points record. So it's special. So I don't want to take anything away from celebrating that, being happy for that. But, for us as players, the next step is we want to win an MLS Cup, so that even though we're excited about that, the next thought is, okay, we've done it. We're happy about it. We're grateful for it, grateful for the fans. Now we got to focus on MLS Cup.
One of the phrases that people have kind of latched onto is, these are the guys. Matt Turner said in a post-game interview. Matt Polster said it well. It's kind of like, these are the guys who went out and set the single-season MLS points record. If someone had told you in preseason, you're out in LA getting ready for the year, and said, hey, this group of guys, you're not going to make even any additions during the course of the season. This group of guys is going to go out, and they're going to do some stuff that no team in MLS history has done before and set the single-season points record. What would have been your reaction at that point as you were getting ready for the season?
I don't think I would have been shocked or surprised at the possibility of that. I don't think it would have been a far-fetched thing if you would have asked that question maybe a couple years ago. Maybe I would have been like, come on, what are we talking about here? But just knowing the kind of run we had last year, how we came together as a team last year, bringing back a majority of the guys, and the outlook we had on that season, this season, especially in preseason, what our ultimate goals were. You look around the locker room and you could see guys were hungry. I would have said, that's a real possibility of competing for it. I don't know about winning it because it's extremely difficult to do, but definitely competing for it. I wouldn't have been shocked. And here we are now with that culmination of a preseason so long ago, so many different things, not starting out with fans and then so many different things. So it's special, especially for this club.
Was the shield heavier than you expected?
Yeah, everyone's saying that. I mean, it really was. I don't know why I was expecting it to be less weight, but for some reason, yeah, it definitely was. But yeah, these are the guys. I think I might have started that in the locker room months ago.
Yeah,
I'll take that months ago.
You take the credit.
Just joking around, like no way. Like these are the guys. Like we're gonna be the best team in the league. No way. Just as a joke of like so we're just from all over and kind of wild, but. Yeah, it's great. I love that little, catchphrase.
Starting that joke a while ago, and you guys kind of had an unusual situation because you did clinch the Supporters Shield so early. There were so many games in between you actually clinching that title and then lifting it. So at what point did it actually hit you that this is happening and you guys had won the Supporters Shield? Was it in that moment when you lifted it? Was it after, before?
It was as the midway through the season, and it was like, oh, this is a real possibility.
Yeah.
The way we're playing, our mindset was like, we're not going to lose a game. You know, every game we went into, we're like, oh, we have a good chance. We're just going to win this game. You know, there's times where you're on a team in previous years, you know, you obviously always want to think we're going to win this game, but you are in the back of your mind like, this is going to be. Every game we went into, we're like, oh, we're going to win this game. And regardless if we got a tie or a loss, whatever. But once it got to, you know, once we officially clinched it, it already seemed like, okay, it's just a matter of, you know, games when we're going to get it. But yeah, probably actually holding the supporter shield, you know, in front of our fans. I think that's when I'm like, okay, we've done it. We're able to celebrate it, enjoy it. My family was there, so that was special. A lot of other people's family was there, which makes it a lot more enjoyable too. That's probably when it was like, okay, it really hit me.
Teal, you mentioned earlier that, you know, it's been kind of a crazy year. It honestly feels like 10 years when you put it in perspective from like the first game when there were no fans here, you had to be in the mass, and then gradually letting people in as the capacity restrictions kind of lifted. But getting to that final game, you just mentioned having your family on the field. How special was it for you to just have them to celebrate that moment with you?
Yeah, I mean, they're everything to me. Freckles is the best mommy, the best wifey, and she makes life for me easy, you know. I love my girls to death, but they get up really early in the morning. and Freckles is absolutely superwoman, getting super mommy, I call her, because she gets up so early with them, and it's just the best with them. And I mean, they're amazing girls, and just being able to share these special moments with them. They might not fully understand what's going on, but just knowing that I'll have pictures and videos later on to show them that, hey, we all did this together, that to me means more than anything.
And you guys obviously celebrated in the locker room with your teammates. We were in the press conference, and we heard it bumping in there. There was some music going on. So just what were those celebrations like when you guys were in the locker room?
Yeah, I don't even remember what songs they were. It was interesting because we lost the game.
Yeah.
You know, so it was kind of a weird situation where we're like, hey, you know, this event, you know, winning this trophy is the entirety of a season, and you should celebrate it, but, you know, as players, you hate to lose as well. So it's like, it's that little dichotomy of like, bummer. We wanted to give these fans, you know, we had 31,000 plus fans out there, wanted to give them a nice little show. But we were able to get past that and enjoy the moment, and everybody was vibing, having a great time, taking pictures with the shield. Some guys were drinking some water, some guys were drinking other things, but I think it was a great celebration. Yeah,
I'll be honest, I was nervous at the final whistle because we were down on the sidelines, and the vibes were not immaculate at the final whistle.
Nope.
And we're going, okay, well, these guys deserve to celebrate this moment.
Yeah.
But it doesn't at this time feel like anyone really even wants to do this because they just lost the game. So I was a little relieved when you guys got over there, got your hands on the shield, and it seemed like you were able to, at least for a little bit, push past that and say, okay, we deserve to celebrate this moment regardless of what happened tonight.
Exactly. I think that was the sentiment throughout the team was, okay, yeah, we're bummed about the game, but hey, here's a special moment we get to enjoy, you know, with family, with fans. Let's make sure that we're making the most of it and, you know, walking around with the shield and letting everybody know we appreciate them and for what they've done throughout the season.
When you guys lifted the shield too, I noticed that some people kind of went for the straight up over their head, and like you did a little kind of swoop thing.
Yeah.
You know, what was kind of the logic for how you lifted it?
Yeah, I was just trying to be different. I don't even know what I was doing, you know.
It was cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was cool to see, you know, Brad, Knighton lift it, Scotty lift it, you know, everybody, but some guys who have been around here for a while. It makes it memorable and special that some guys have been through some tough times here. And seeing them be able to enjoy it, be excited, it's a cool moment. It was a cool moment.
I definitely noticed a lot of the younger players making sure that the vets got it first. I'm sure they understood that.
Yeah.
Been around the block a couple times.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, now the attention shifts to the 2021 Audi MLS Cup playoffs, and you guys, as the number one seed, obviously have the first round bye and have that first playoff game in the Eastern Conference semifinals on November 30th, either against New York City FC or Atlanta United. What's the focus now ahead of that game?
It's getting prepared. You know, having 3 weeks to prepare for a game is strange, but I think we're gonna have some either inter squad games or maybe play some outside teams, maybe USL team, not sure yet. But the big focus is trying to stay sharp. Mm-hmm. Some guys might have some injuries, some knocks, so it's always about making sure you're rested and healed but it's also about staying sharp. You don't want too much time off. You don't want to come back and play that game that we've seen in years past where those teams get that bye and they're coming back and you just see they're not as sharp, they're not as quick to the ball. So it's a balancing act of how much do we do in training, how little do we do, keeping your mind sharp and intact, but also having a little break as well, So we're trying to navigate that right now, but I think we're doing a good job we're still pushing it every day in training. And I think guys are fired up. We don't want to be one of those teams that wins the Supporter Shield, has a great regular season, and first playoff game comes and see you later. That's not our mindset.
Is it tough to bring that intensity, like if you're doing, like say a 90-minute practice game, but you're preparing for the playoffs? Is it tough to bring that intensity against whether it's a USL team, your own guys, that sort of thing?
I don't think it's difficult. I think it's just also being aware of, you don't want to get injured in those moments too. I think that's the biggest thing of you want to push yourself as hard as you can because you want to be sharp, but you also, if it's an inner squad, you don't want to hurt your teammates at this particular time, but you want to get stuck in as well. So it's just being smart in those moments. And that's the challenge right now, of just making sure we're ready.
When you think about the postseason and trophies, I know you had a lot of success early in your career. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you won an Open Cup your third year in the league. Mm-hmm. You won an MLS Cup your fourth year in the league. Yep. Then you came to the Revs in your fifth year in the league. You started an MLS Cup final. So you had a lot of those experiences really early in your career. Now we're 7 years on from that. You're looking for that next opportunity to get back to a final. How differently do you think about or approach playoff opportunities now as opposed to when you were a younger player and they were happening basically every year?
Yeah, when you're younger, especially we got some young guys on this team now that have only tasted playoffs. But for me early on, I was like, oh, okay, this is something that wherever I'm playing, it's just going to happen. You're going to be in that postseason and you're going to continue to play while other teams are not. And then there's a stretch of when you're not making the playoffs and you miss it and you want to be involved and you don't like getting on social media or turning on the TV and watching these teams playing in playoff games. So for me now, it's making the most out of these moments, but also trying to help guys around me, younger players as well, to not take it for granted. And a lot of the times it's not even, I think, the things on the field. I think, playoff time comes now. If you're a younger player, you might have people coming out of the woodworks asking for tickets, want to come into town. And the focus should be, this first week, try to get all that stuff situated. Because the closer you get to the game, you don't want to be focused on getting, as much as you love your family members, you don't want to be looking for a hotel or looking for tickets or all these little things that you might not think about. But now that I'm, older and have, been a part of some of that, I can understand, the importance of limiting distractions the closer it gets to a playoff game.
Well, at this point, there's only 3 games between the squad and potentially getting the first ever MLS Cup for this group. And Arena is someone who's been around the block with regards to that. He has 5 MLS Cup titles coaching. What is it about him that allows him to get the best out of every single player heading into those do or die situations?
Yeah, I think he's in those moments, I think he's he wants to push the team and the players, but he's hands off in the way of he doesn't want to change too many things that has been working for him in previous years or previous seasons or that regular season. So he's very much a player's coach in the sense of, he's not always talking about tactics, and everybody hears that, but he's very particular about the work rate that people bring. He's very particular on the way we're organized defensively, but a lot of the times it's just being aware of what your role is on the team, and out fighting that other team. So I think he's got so much experience that if there's any questions for any players, whether you're a veteran or a rookie, he's going to be able to handle and manage those players better than any coach.
When you think of like the potential pitfalls that people talk about, well, you're the number 1 seed and the pressure that comes with that, and Supporter Shield winners have always had trouble going on and winning MLS Cup, and you've got a 3-week break between the last regular season game and the playoffs, like all these things that could present challenges. If you think about anyone you would want leading you through that, it seems like, okay, well, they're going to be able to deal with this stuff because Bruce has been there and done that more than anybody.
Yeah, I can't really add anything to that. You're right. I mean, you look around the league and, there's some big-time coaches, but I don't know if you can name anybody who's accomplished more than him.
How does he kind of approach this 3-week stretch with regards to usually when you're prepping for a game, you know who you're playing. You guys have quite a little while till you figure out whether it's New York City or Atlanta. Do you approach it as let's prepare for both situations, or do you really just keep the focus on the team for the first 2 weeks and then once you know, hone in on it from there?
Yeah, I think for us it's going to be a lot about focusing on our own team.
Yeah.
It's really hard to, both New York City and Atlanta present different challenges, so to try to prepare for each of them, it'd take too much time to try to flip-flop. And so for us, it's just about, there's still, obviously that Miami game, still bummed about. So there's things we got to take from that. If teams are going to come in and play like Miami did, we're going to have to make sure we're sharper in the final third when we get, when we have chances to, put them away. We're expecting any team that's going to come in and face us here at home, they're going to sit back, and we're going to have to break a team down. So whether it's New York City or Atlanta, you got to think that any team that's coming here is going to play a certain way against us, and that's how we're going to prepare.
And there was some news on Monday. Striker Gustavo Bo re-signed with the club. His contract extended till 2023. You've had an opportunity to play alongside him for a while now. So just how special of a player is he, and how integral has he been to this club since he joined?
I mean, his numbers are incredible. I don't know, comparatively to other forwards in the league in that time span, I mean, they're pretty remarkable. And not only is he just a great player, but he's funny in the locker room. I think he still knows more English than he lets on.
That was going to be my question. Is his English better than we think it is? Because, Elizabeth, you asked him a question post-game on the field, and he answered in Spanish.
Yeah.
But he understood everything that was being said.
Yeah, I think he gets the context clues a little bit. I think he gets it. His English quote is always nice and easy. It's like is what he likes to say. But, I'm happy for him. He deserves it. He's been huge for our club. And it's just a shift in the paradigm of our organization where we're keeping big-time players, and it's a benefit to our club. And it just speaks volumes to ownership and the direction this club's going.
To answer your question, second league-wide since July 2019 in combined goals and assists. So
really,
certainly been, in terms of production, one of the best attacking players in the league.
What else can you say?
That's pretty good, if I have to.
It's not bad,
yes.
Pretty good.
Well, speaking of impactful players, Teal, you've made quite an impact on this club yourself over your time here, and you were honored this year with the Humanitarian of the Year award. Lots of different efforts from you with the Teal Bunbury Foundation. You had Back to School with the Revs, Teal's team, and I know we're going to get to your new initiative, Teal's Turkey Club, coming up, but how special is it for you to be named the Humanitarian of the Year, not only this year, but this is your second consecutive year receiving that award?
Well, thank you, but I never really like talking about me personally. Getting awards, I think, is great and means that you are hopefully doing something right in somebody's eye. But for me personally, the biggest thing I want to do, I always say it, is share God's love with people. And with Freckles and my wife and I being able to start the Teal Bunbury Foundation, it was just another way of wanting to do these certain outreaches where we've done Back to School with the Revs for a few years now. And it's so enjoyable for me to be able to see families, parents with their kids being able to go and enjoy themselves, getting some back to school stuff, especially in our communities. It's important. I think a lot of times there's so much craziness kind of going on around in social media and people, getting upset and uptight about so many different things that, hey, let's get back to what we're doing on this earth and how we can just help one another, who I think everybody at a certain time is kind of struggling or going through something. So with that and Teal's team, having some people come out, some youth come to a sporting event that maybe they would never have the opportunity to, enjoy a fun game, have some food, hang out, take some pictures with them. I think it's been really enjoyable for me. I think I get more out of it than maybe the families and the people that might be touched by that. But in particular, I'm just really grateful for the New England community because they've been so helpful throughout my time doing certain outreaches, whether it's spreading the word, whether it's donating money, whether it's just interacting with me personally on ways to maybe do something better or here's another opportunity. And I think that's what it's all about. If you can help one another, it makes you feel better. And I don't do it to gain anything personally. I just know that there's some people that might be hurting or just might need a helping hand. And hey, why not? If I have a platform, why not help someone?
I knew you weren't going to want to talk too in depth about yourself, which is why I wanted to ask. I know you haven't done much of this on your own. You've had help from the community. You've had help from teammates as well. Yeah. So which of your teammates, is there anyone you'd like to call out and say, hey, these are the guys who've been helping me along the way, who've been really impactful?
Yeah. So we have a Bible study group with myself, Adam Buxa, DeJuan Jones, John Bell, and Kizza, where we've been meeting once a week, pretty much the entire season, give or take, once every couple weeks. And in particular, Walt Day, who's our chaplain here, who really has spearheaded and helped a lot of these efforts. But those guys are the ones that have come to, the Ron Burton Training Village, who are going to be this upcoming Teal's Turkey Club. We might go down to the Providence Rescue Mission to help hand out some boxes of food. But they've been the ones that have been really in the background helping out. Dave Campampiano has really been helpful with organizing Teal's team for me here with the club. So there's a lot of people. Obviously, my wife has been tremendous in helping me. There's a lot of people that it's not just about me. It's a group effort where we're analyzing and figuring out. There's ways where we can give back or help, spread joy, spread God's love, and they enjoy it also. So yeah, it's been awesome.
Well, we love seeing all of your initiatives, and I know you teased it a little bit, telling us you might be handing out some of those goods for Teal's Turkey team. But can you start telling us a little bit more about the Teal's Turkey Club and how Revs fans can help you in this initiative? Yeah, so this is our second year of doing Teal's Turkey Club. It's our Bible study group with the guys that I had mentioned. We came together last year thinking, there might be something we can do to help some families enjoy the intimacy, enjoy family time during Thanksgiving, because a lot of times that's what it's about. It's getting together with family, sharing a nice meal. And the Providence Rescue Mission does an unbelievable job of, helping a lot of, I don't know how to word it, but helping families that just need help. And what they usually do on Thanksgiving is they hand out, a 15-pound turkey and about 30 to 40 pounds of food to family members. And I think each box is about $40. And I think last year our goal was like $4,000, but somehow we got to like 10 or 11,000. That's awesome.
Yeah, all thanks to people who donate and fans and family members, which is tremendous. So this year we said, let's go for 15,000. So right now, tealsturkeyclub.com is a way people can go on that website, and there's a donation link at the bottom. It kind of shares a little bit more about the initiative, but it teams up with the Providence Rescue Mission, who are doing an outstanding job and just giving back to the community there. So, New England's a big area. It's not just Boston. It's not, there's a lot of places that we try to touch. I don't want to leave anybody out, but that's what Teal's Turkey Club is all about.
Well, we love that you're spreading God's love and being able to touch so many families. I know the New England community really enjoys contributing, and I'm sure the families really appreciate it. I also have to point out that you have a great name because you have so much alliteration that you can use for all of your initiatives. I mean, Teal Team, you were talking about Teal's Talk before, and, Teal's Turkey Club. Yeah. I mean, J's over here. I don't think we can do stuff like that.
No. As someone who personally loves alliteration, J can be rough. We were talking about this the other day. We're like, you could have like Jeff's Jamboree or something like that. But I run out of ideas after Jeff's Jamboree.
What else you got?
I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna have to
Jeff's
brainstorm.
Jams?
We'll have a brainstorming session later.
All right.
I feel like I could go with Pehota more than Elizabeth. Like Pehota's pack. Pehota is like.
That's fair.
Pehota has some alliteration. Elizabeth, not really.
Yeah, it's tough.
We'll chat about it later. We'll get some ideas down.
No, we got to do it now. No.
All right. Well, we'll brainstorm off of the Far Post podcast. But Teal, thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah. We've really had a great time having you on, and best of luck preparing for the playoffs.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it as always.
Welcome back to the Far Post podcast, presented by ESports Gaming League. Thanks to Teal Bunbury for joining us. And now we begin here to look ahead to the Audi 2021 MLS Cup playoffs. But we can't do that completely without first taking a look back at the game that's going to send the Revs into the playoffs, which was unfortunately that 1-0 loss to Inter Miami to close out the season. So I guess I'll just kind of open up the floor and say, as you look at the 90 minutes of that Inter Miami game, as the last match before the Revs are going to head into the playoffs in a couple of weeks, what were the biggest takeaways, the most important takeaways for you looking at the Miami performance?
Obviously, we're not at our best, but still created multiple quality chances. I don't know, the night you might win the game 3 or 4-1. It's a tough spot. Like I don't think I don't think a player will ever admit that if there was a 50-50 ball that they maybe didn't go full speed. I don't think they'll ever admit that, but subconsciously it has to be there. Like, your job is already done. There's a level of, am I really gonna wreck myself for this ball right now, given where we are? And there has to be a level of that in there. So I never really wanted to overreact to this game either way, just given the circumstance. But it wasn't great. It wasn't great. But like I said, on another night, Gustavo might have 2. You know, there was enough quality chances created to hopefully have won a game. But it's a nice teachable moment for Bruce to have. You know, he gets to wail on them a little bit now, and he gets to yell at them again, which, you know, sets the table for a playoff game. You have the message now. If you see, that's what we're talking about. If you switch off and you give up a poor goal, you're gone home, right? That's it. It's over, and he gets to have that conversation now. Versus if you roll out with a 4-1 win and everyone's feeling great, and you can't lose and you're awesome. So he's probably secretly a little bit happy.
Well, he said in his post-game press conference, he said, I want to bring some beers over to Miami's locker room because I appreciate them giving us a game. It would have been easy for Miami. They've been eliminated from playoff contention the previous week.
I give them a lot of credit. I don't like to give Phil Neville any credit, obviously, nor should anybody. But yeah, they came here to battle. They put in a performance, and obviously some of them are playing for jobs and contracts and stuff like that. But yeah, you get someone like Matthew Eady who's up for that game. It was surprising that they came in here and wanted to give it everything. So, but yeah, it sucked. I mean, look, the roof was ready to come off the place if we scored an actual goal, and we did celebrate for about 15 seconds. Yeah, that's true. Got to fire some fireworks and flash the lights, but yeah, it would have been nice to get a goal. Would have been nice to get a result. Obviously, in 76 points would have been fantastic, but it just was sort of.
It's funny. I kind of already had that number in my head, like the season was going to end on 76.
Yeah.
So now going back and saying that they finished on 73, I'm like, what happened? I'm like, they lost the finale to Miami.
Yep.
Elizabeth, do you prescribe to the notion at all that it can be good to get a loss, quote unquote, out of your system before a playoff run? I don't know if that's like a very American thing, but people think about like the NCAA tournament, and you've got like the number 1 team in the country, and they lose a game late in the season. Like, well, it's good they got that loss out of their system. Do you prescribe to that notion at all?
No, but I'll caveat that. So I don't really prescribe to that notion, but I do think with what we've seen from this, I usually typically think that the teams are hottest going into the playoffs are the ones that go the furthest. But with this team, they've had so few losses this year, and every single time they've bounced back. They've responded consistently. So I almost wonder, when you're on a 10-game unbeaten run and you have it snapped the last game of the season, can that serve as more motivation? And I think yes. And I think we've seen this team use those sort of performances and have it fuel them and actually light a fire under them. So I think in this particular instance, it can be a positive moving forward if they use it constructively. And I also think that with the way the season ended with lifting the supporter shield after that win, you had a really unique sort of juxtaposition. You have the disappointment of a loss, of missing 3 points that could have put you at a higher record. You have a really disappointing result. But then you have it juxtaposed next to this incredible moment where you're being rewarded for your hard work all season, lifting a trophy, the first league trophy for this club. And it's kind of like a reminder, you can't let this happen again because you want this moment and you want it on a bigger stage. So I almost think that while I'm disappointed in the loss, that this team can use it productively moving forward if it's put in that light. So I'm hopeful from here. I don't believe in the notion to go back to it, but I think that this team can make it work.
Yeah, I think in terms of the 90 minutes, the biggest, most obvious takeaway is, especially come playoff time, you have to finish your chances.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily about creating chances against Miami. I think back to an opportunity, maybe the 15th minute or so, really heads-up play from Gustavo Bo. There's a throw-in along the touchline, and he ran in behind the back line. Can't be offside in a throw-in. He got himself to the end line and played a crossing for Carlos Heel, who had a free volley from 6 yards, and he pops it over the bar. And it's really uncharacteristic, but it's one of those kind of cliche things where you think, how does the game play out from there if the Revs go up 1-0 in the 15th minute?
Sure.
If Miami have to open things up a little bit, does it then get out of hand? Like, you don't know, but you can't let teams hang around in the playoffs.
Right, and especially in that, in that particular game, even though Miami put up a good fight, but if they do go a goal down, you're probably like, let's just get this thing over and get out of here. But you have to take your chance. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, right? And that that's sort of the one worry I would have is that in the playoffs, goals get a little harder to come by, and if you keep this sort of trend is, I don't think it's a trend, but if you do ship a soft goal, you know, and you don't take a chance the other end, this thing can be over in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Well, and as Teal talked about in our conversation, the Revs are preparing for games in the postseason to look something like that Miami game, where a team comes in and sits a little bit deeper and aims to frustrate the Revs. And they're preparing for that. They're not only mentally preparing for that, but Teal said on the training ground, they're working on if a team comes in here, regardless of who it is, irregardless of who it is.
Yeah.
They're anticipating whether New York City, whether Atlanta, whether anyone else potentially down the road comes in, that there's probably going to be an element of trying to sit a little bit deeper and frustrate the Revs.
Sure.
And they have to be prepared to figure out how to break that down. And again, against Miami, it wasn't necessarily the issue of breaking it down. It was it was the issue of finishing the chances when you do break it down.
Right.
And look, one guy who's going to be massive in that is Adam Buksa.
Sure. Agreed.
And maybe those 90 minutes against Miami were a little bit of kind of showed us how critical Adam Buksa has been to this team and how much they play through him in the attack. And not only playing through him on the ground, but playing through him in the air, and the aerial ability that he has, I feel like opens up things on the ground for everybody else. Carlos Hill's better when Adam Buksa is on the field. Tejan Buchanan's better. Gustavo Bo's better when they can play off and around Adam Buksa. And that's why I know when some people saw the playoff game was announced for November 30th, and everyone went, oh my God, 23 days between the regular season and playoffs. It's such a long wait. That's your reward, is a Tuesday night playoff game. I say, if you're the New England Revolution, you probably wanted that Tuesday night playoff game for a few reasons. One, because it gives Adam Buksa as much time as possible to get healthy.
Yeah. I think, and then one side note on that piece, right? It's not, we're as much a problem in the scheduling as anybody else, right? Our stadium is not available on the Sunday, right? That's why we had Tuesday or Thursday to pick from. It's not just the league sticking it to us by not giving us a Saturday or Sunday game. We're a little bit culpable in that one. But yeah, it makes the rest a little shorter on the back end, but I think we've seen this team that the more games they can play, the better. So I'm not worried about the back end of it either, but yeah, give us those extra 3 or 4 days for Adam to feel a little stronger. Yeah, sign me up.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it yesterday too. Everyone's going, oh yeah, when you have such a long break until the first playoff game, now you're talking about if you make a run to MLS Cup, that's 3 games in 11 days. 3 games in 11 days sounds awesome.
Yeah.
We had 4 games in 12 days, 5 times this year.
I got no concerns about this squad with 3 and 11. That's fine.
No, and I think this team has also excelled in those stretches where they've had a lot of games in quick succession. So not concerned about it, and actually really looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, we'll hopefully by the next time we're on the show, we'll do a show after we know who the Revolution's playoff opponent is going to be.
Who do you think it's going to be, Jeff?
Well, it's going to be either New York City FC or Atlanta. That game's on Sunday, November 21st, and I said I definitely don't want to ask who you want it to be, because that I feel like is a recipe for disaster.
Yes.
If you're like, well, I want to face this team.
I don't really want either of those teams.
That team. Those are not 2 teams that I would have put at the top of the list of teams that I wanted to play. New York City FC are just one of those teams that when things are clicking for them in the attacking third of the field, they're really dangerous. I mean, we saw the game, even the game the Revs won 3-2 at Red Bull Arena. New York City FC could have scored 6 or 7 if Matt Turner hadn't stood on his head in that game. When they're clicking in the attacking third, they are one of the best attacking teams in the league. They've got the league Golden Boot winner in Tati Castellanos, and they've got an Atlanta team that looks a lot different than the team the Revs beat twice earlier in the season.
That Atlanta team scares me a little bit.
And plus, because that's a team that plays on an artificial surface, you lose a little bit of the artificial surface home field advantage. So both of those teams, no question, are teams that can come in and are going to put up a heck of a fight against this Revolution team. But I mean, obviously, when you're the number 1 seed in the league, you had the season that the Revs have, you're gonna have to go through some teams at some point to get to the title.
Sure, and it's that this might, and again, you don't want to overlook any opponent. You don't want to get too far ahead of yourself, but this might be the hardest game that they'll have. That's the standard of these 2 teams, and if they're on this sort of a good run of form going, they have confidence going, that's a tough game no matter who comes out of that one.
Cathal, I agree with you on that note, also because this group, that's the response. I feel like they're really good once they get on a foot and they can kind of make a run in a couple days, when they have a lot of games, but I feel like the biggest test is going to be at the beginning, at least, to start to get the momentum going.
Yeah, we did not look great coming out of the last layoff. The start of that game was a little rusty.
Exactly. So if they can set the tone well on the 30th, I'm going to feel great.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more on our next podcast. Bruce Arena did say on Zoe and Bertrand on 98.5 The Sports Hub on Thursday that the Revs will set up 2 practice games. They're going to play 1 game against outside competition, 1 game that'll be more of an intra-squad
match.
Right? That would be Revs versus Revs. That'll be be all of us here.
Staff.
Suiting up.
Yep.
We just stand there.
Both of those games will be in stadium. They'll play on the stadium field. They'll have another couple training sessions in stadium. So I think some of those lessons learned from the last time the Revs came out of a break and looked a little rusty, they know that they've got to make sure that they're good to go. I also think the mentality of that being a playoff game, I hope pushes you through that a little bit.
For sure.
But we'll talk about all of that and kind of how that whole process is playing out on our next show. But for now, that'll do it for this installment of the Far Post Podcast presented by ESports Gaming League.
Well done, Jeff.
Thanks so much to Teal Bunbury for joining us once again. We will be back. We'll be with you at least once more before that Revolution playoff opener in the Eastern Conference semifinals. It's on Tuesday, November 30th at Gillette Stadium. Get your tickets, and we will see you soon.